Hey, can you hear me all right? Maybe. All right, give me like 2 more minutes. I'll be right there. Talk amongst yourselves or something. I don't know. I gotta take care of important business. Business. All right, cool. So the plan is we're gonna work on this cart. Forgive me if this is a little weird. This is basically my first stream here, and I don't know, till I get the hang of what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just gonna structure it like one of my videos. I'll try and keep an eye on chat, but you know how it is. So I have this very excellent, nice, minty copy of Pokemon Gold here, and unfortunately it isn't working. I already know exactly what the problem is, but I'm still going to walk through some troubleshooting steps so that I can, I don't know, try and help out if you guys are trying to figure out what the heck is wrong with your carts or something. So that's not yellow, this is yellow. Anyway, so when we pop it in the Game Boy, we just get this, we don't get a Nintendo logo here. So how the Game Boy carts work is on the ROM chip itself in the game is a copy of this Nintendo logo. The Game Boy is going to read the ROM chip, look for that Nintendo logo, and then display it up here and check it against an internal copy stored in the Game Boy itself. If those don't match, then it just hangs up on the start on this screen here and you won't get anywhere. And this is what it's reading from the cart, which is why it's not working. And yes, normally the first step is to clean the pins. I like to start by just checking it in another Game Boy entirely. So wow, I just tried to flick that on and this is not that Game Boy. Anyway, so we're getting the exact same thing on this Game Boy as well. I like to narrow down my issues. If we're getting the exact same thing on both Game Boys, chances are pretty good that it's not an issue with the Game Boy. So the next step, since we know it's not an issue with the Game Boy, is to go in here and clean the pins. A cotton swab or Q-tip or cotton bud or whatever the hell, those are usually perfect for going in there and getting the pins. You can even use a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on these to help out. Another helpful option, if you're using isopropyl alcohol though, be careful not to get it on the label. It can mess up the label if you're not careful. And it will mess up this label, especially because there's just paper showing on this one. But obviously I'm not too concerned on this cart. So I have already tried cleaning it. Still doesn't work. I'm going to take it apart and see what's going on. And as soon as you see this motherboard, you'll know exactly why it's not working. So I'm sure that's perfectly normal. I don't see any issues with that. Throwing shit everywhere. Battery doesn't... Oh yeah, so the battery is just for the real-time clock and to hold the save. Without the battery, the cart will still work perfectly fine. But, yeah, so it's obviously seen better days. Now, there are several different ways we can go about fixing this. I'm going to go ahead and get my soldering iron warmed up. I'm rambling about this. We can just go through with a multimeter testing continuity on stuff that I know there should be continuity on. You know, voltage rail should be connected to this pin, and it is, so on and so forth. Ground rail. There should be ground. I forget which one it is. Is it this one? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we could see stuff in there. We can go about that with every single pin, make sure everything's connected up and happy. And when we find stuff that isn't connected, we can solder some bodge wires and connect it up. But there is an easier way, as long as you're not afraid of using a little bit of hot air. So my buddy HDR, who may or may not be in chat, he wasn't responding to my DMs earlier, so probably not. He went through and reverse engineered these circuit boards and actually made replacement circuit boards that you can just use. You swap out all the components over to that, and once you got it reassembled, it should work perfectly fine. But in this case, because I've made so many flash carts with this, not with this, but with similar games, like these things here, because I've made so many of these things, I actually have this exact model PCB left over from other games. So what we can do is we could just pop one of these apart and look at this. DMG KGDU 01, DMG KGDU 01. Those are the exact same model PCB. I could just swap over the necessary parts and then that should be good. What I will need to swap over is this ROM chip on the right here, this MBC chip right here, and then the power management chip. I'm going to try and reuse the existing crystal and all the other supporting... I desoldered all the other supporting components. Okay, I guess I'll swap those over too. But I'm 90% sure the issue is with the PCB in this particular case, just because I could see all the nasty corrosion on it. So I think that's what we're going to go with. I have several donor carts that I can use. This is actually the one that I had intended on using, but I decided against this because on one of the pins here there is a little bit of a blemish and it could cause issues. It probably won't, but I have a PCB in better shape, so I'm going to use that. And it's basically the same thing with all of these. This one's missing the crystal, and I don't want to go digging through my parts to find one. And this one is just all scratched to shit, so we don't want to do that either. I don't want to make it USB rechargeable. I've done that before. The battery lasts like a month. Worst case scenario, I do have another game that is perfectly intact that we can use as a full donor if I need it, but I think this will be fine. Alright, and then there's just another one because I have too many of these darn things. Okay, so to start, I know for a fact this battery is bad, but we're going to remove it anyway because I'm going to be using hot air to desolder a lot of these things, and these batteries explode if you try and use hot air on them. Ask me how I know. Actually, don't. Don't ask me how I know. That's not going to happen. You can probably guess. So I'm trying to think how I want to do it. I think I'm going to start with this one and just hot air this chip off and get the rest of this stuff prepared so that when I hit this one with hot air, I can just swap the components over one by one. Yeah, I think that should work. My only concern is this chip right here, the mask ROM chip. Some of these pins look like they've seen better days. Hopefully they'll still take solder, but I don't know. I suppose another step I could use in troubleshooting this is to just retouch up these pins that look like they're pretty nasty. And quite frankly, that might be enough to fix it. But with this sort of corrosion, I know I'm going to run into trouble in the future, so I'm just going to try and take care of that now. Okay. Yes, the legs do look quite eroded, but I think we're going to be okay. I'm going to touch up these solder joints with some fresh solder, some fresh solder. Beautiful. Beauty! Alright, good enough. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to use my hot air station for this. How do I feel about solder paste for stuff like this? That would probably be ideal for this, but this is what I have. So this is what I'm using. Anyway, sorry. I'm going to use my hot air station for this. I don't think my camera picks this up, but just in case it does, and just in case you're sensitive to this sort of thing, when it's on, it does cause my lights to flicker quite fast. So, you know, if you're sensitive to that, just heads up. If not, well, carry on. I'm not your supervisor. All right. We're going to use some flux. This is also not the ideal flux for this, but it's what I have, so it's what I'm using. And yes, I will clean this stuff up, just I'm not going to take a 20-minute intermission in the middle of the stream to do it. And I am 90% sure the RAM on these two games is the same. If one of them was a larger capacity, I'd want to swap this chip over too, but I'm fairly confident they're the same thing, so I'm not going to do that. If someone could do me a solid and double check that for me, I'd be super grateful. This is the game. It's called Trade Card Hero or Card Hero something, I don't know. But if you look up this code, DMG-AAH-HHJ, that'll confirm it. But 90% sure they're the same. We'll worry about that later. Let me bump the heat up a little. And probably want some tweezers. I can't find my ceramic tip ones, so screw it. We'll do it this way. This thing does not heat up very quick. There we go, that should be good enough. Fuck if I know where the ceramic tweezers are. Oops. I should also get like a PCB vise or something to hold this shit in place. I mean, this wonderful PCB. Jesus, thing keeps moving. I think I also need more heat. Yeah, screw it. Let's get more heat. Let's crank it all the way up. What could possibly go wrong? Oh my god. That's what happens when you do stuff live. Okay. Set that over here. Forgot to put flux on that. Sure, it'll be fine. Sun just popped. Hope that was just flux boiling or something. Yeah, I think that's it. At least everything I'm going to do with hot air. And yes, this is a silicone mat, because I know I would ruin this surface without it. It seems to insulate pretty well. One problem is it kind of bubbles up when you get only part of it hot. How expensive is my hot air station? It was like 50 bucks on Amazon. I can't say I recommend it, but it works. And you know what? We might be good to go as is. There's a bridge there that I need to fix, but the rest of these joints look pretty well soldered up. I do still need to transfer over all these little capacitors and shit though. But that's easy enough. I can even zoom in. What kind of magical shit is that? Those are terrible solder joints, by the way. I am going to go back and touch those up. Especially that one. Totally fucked that up. Oh, forgot one. It does not matter the polarity on these. Yeah, we'll just go with it. Just gonna get everything transferred over first, and then I'll worry about making it pretty later. I think that's it. There's that one down there, but I don't need to transfer that over. Cool. Yeah, that's why I hate using this flux. Oh dear, I soldered it to my solder. No? Maybe? Okay, guess it's not going to focus. I like this knife tip because if you need to, there's that fine point on it, you can really get in there. But for other stuff like soldering chips on, it's got this big wide surface area. I'm just using the flux that the board is already covered with to get these in place. Usually the surface tension of the solder on the pads will just pull these into place. I don't have to worry about it sticking to the iron, but like I said, of course, because I'm doing it live, that's not how it's working. Oh, gotta fix this one. Oh, it's upside down. We can fix that. My tweezers are all sticky and covered in flux. Everything's sticky at this point. I hate it. Okay. Alright, there we go. Cool. Hang on, let me just scroll through chat real quick. So yeah, someone brings up a good point that I probably should have mentioned. I didn't because it wasn't an issue with this cart in particular, but these are really thin PCBs. I believe the spec is 0.08 millimeters. And unfortunately that was kind of a budding technology at the time when Nintendo was making these things, back in, I don't know, 1989. I know this particular board was made closer to 1999, but, same difference there. When you insert these things into a Game Boy, the board does flex a little bit, like I said, because it's so thin, and unfortunately just after a few years of doing that, sometimes it causes the chips to flex as well, and you get some solder joints that break on the connections there. And unfortunately, it's ridiculously hard to physically inspect that. But a common solution to that problem, is to just go through and solder on all the connection. Oh, before I clean this, that's fine. I'm just cleaning the cart edge here. But yeah, a common solution is to just go ahead and solder on all of the pins. There's a really good video that I usually link whenever someone asks me about it, from YouTuber. I believe he goes by bob.exe or something. I don't know. I'll have to double check that. But I will link it in the description after the stream, or I'll link it in the chat, or someone, I don't know. Maybe some kind soul can link it. It's the same one that I linked in the wiki for troubleshooting. And no, this is not all the cleanup I'm going to do. I'm just cleaning it enough to test it without getting my Game Boy all gooey. So, that's clearly a bad thing. That is not how I envisioned this going. Let's try another Game Boy. Oop. I got a green light, but nothing else. Okay, so there's probably a really nasty short, like perhaps that short on the mask ROM that I forgot to clear. That one right there. Oh, but those pins look like they're disconnected. I don't know, maybe it's affecting something regardless, so. Where's my Flux? And all these joints look pretty good, but I'm going to touch them up anyway. Just in case they're not connected as well as I think they are. Why do you want to know so bad what my favorite Pokemon is? there's a decent chance that even if I did everything right, this thing still won't work anyway. Because unfortunately, that's just how things go sometimes. Better. I'm thinking it's just not making good contact. And the reason I'm using this case is because the back of this thing is covered in flux. And I don't want to have to clean the gold case. Still nothing. Okay. There is a huge scratch across the pads, but it doesn't look... that's interesting. Scratch looks like just a surface scratch. It could also just literally need to be cleaned up. Like, I've seen Flux do some weird shit, man. The solder joints on that C6 capacitor looks terrible. I don't think that would cause my issue, though. Damn it. I swear this never usually happens to me. Good enough. I never actually touched up the joints on this thing. I doubt it would cause my issue. Blow on it. Man, don't even get me started on that. If you need to blow on your cart to get it to work, you have other issues. Like, oh, I don't know, the fact that it needs to actually be cleaned. Blowing on it is just going to cause corrosion and water damage over time. That's what's nice about the knife tip. Oh man, I accidentally got a little bit of solder on that square. Not a huge deal, but... The fact that it's doing... Yeah. Now it's stuck. There it goes. The fact that it's doing something different every single time tells me that the pins might just be dirty. Also, a problem I didn't even think would happen is I was just using parts that were literally thrown in a bin. I don't know if there's other issues here. The donor board I'm using could have been bad. Probably isn't, but could have been. Is this thing cracked? Oh, I don't have a microfiber cloth handy. BRB. The wonderful part of streams. I can't just pause it like I normally do. I mean, I suppose I could just pause it. There we go. Now that's nice and shiny. Hey, that was it. So yeah, of course there's no save. There's no battery in it. So before we continue with testing, two birds, one stone. And pop in a new battery. Normally, I like to use the, I believe they're Panasonic, but don't quote me on that. The tabbed batteries from DigiKey. They are much better than these AliExpress specials, but guess what I have on hand? Alright, so the bottom of this battery is labeled positive, which means this tab on the bottom is the positive tab. The PCB is labeled positive and negative, so we want to connect the positive tab to the positive side, otherwise it's not going to work. I'm going to half-ass the soldering because I'm going to undo this when I clean up the rest of the flux, because there is a lot of flux under the battery, but just for testing. Need tape. Fuck off. If you tape batteries, you're, you deserve to be made fun of, I think. Alright. So let's try it out. Let's try it out, shall we? It is currently not the middle of the evening somehow, or the middle of the morning. No wonder it's so dark. fingers are all sticky. Your fluxy fingers. If you install the battery the wrong way, it will not mess up the game, but it won't work. At least it shouldn't mess up the game. Not saying it won't, but it definitely shouldn't. Alright. It's looking beautiful. Looking way better than this board. I'm glad I tore it off too, because if you look under this ROM chip, you can see all these disgusting vias. I mean, I could have seen that from the other side anyway, but a lot of them are not good. Hey, look at that! It has my save, it has the time, and the time advanced, because I set it to 750. Now it is 751. So, I think that's it, man. I think we're done. So, the next and final step is going to be to remove this battery once again. And clean up all this flux. So my usual method for cleaning flux, and I apologize for everyone who wants to see it, but it's just not going to happen because I'm basically out of isopropyl alcohol. But I take an old toothbrush, one of these bad boys, just saturate it with isopropyl, and then go nuts. I suppose I can get started, why not? Alright, I can't do that under the camera. There's not enough vertical height. Oh, maybe I do have enough. Let me just do this. That was too easy. Oh, come on. It's only easy because I make it look easy. If that didn't work, I was going to take my other game, this one, the one that's actually still working, and use that one as a donor. And just keep going. And if that didn't work, I was going to have to stop and crack open another beer. But if that didn't work, I was going to have to start going through with a multimeter. Jesus Christ, Hazy. And one by one, check all the connections. Alright, so at this point, I'm literally just spreading the flux around because I don't have enough isopropyl. Please tell me the soft bristles toothbrush kind. It's an Oral-B, but it genuinely doesn't matter. You can use literally anything. Whatever you want. I mean, toothbrushes are like, what, $2? Unless you get one of them fancy kinds, which PCB does not need an electric toothbrush. Doesn't that just smear it around? Well, yeah, that's the problem I'm having because I don't have enough isopropyl alcohol. If you use enough isopropyl alcohol, it'll dissolve it, and then when I'm done, I will rinse it off in isopropyl alcohol, but there is not enough to do that for sure. I had more than I thought I did, so I can at least do this step. And unfortunately, this is going to do fuck all for all the flux stuck under the chips. But housemate's toothbrush. You do you, alright? Look at that. You can't even tell it's not mint aside from all the crooked capacitors. Or OEM, rather. I'm just going to wipe it up with this microfiber cloth. This is just some cheap garbage I got on AliExpress years ago. Nothing special. These things are terrible for actually cleaning. Fucking mint, eh? Yeah. I'd say so. This is my substitution for rinsing in isopropyl alcohol because I just genuinely don't have enough for it. I do have a whole nother bottle, but with how hard the stuff has been defined, I'm going to save it for other things. And normally that would be it. And I'd love to show you how not sticky it is, but my fingers are still very sticky, so I haven't washed that yet. I still got to clean up my desk too. Oh, I forgot to clean that. Yeah, let's use the Fluxy toothbrush. Something that usually helps for this stuff, especially because it's on the inside and we don't really care about scratching it up too much, is if you have like a little O-ring pick, you can use that, or tweezers I guess, to just scrape that stuff off. If you're real sensitive about scratching it, you can use a whatever the hell these things are called, plastic spudger. The reason we want to clean up the corrosion in here is because it can still cause issues, especially because the corrosion is only on parts of the shell that are contacting the board. I suppose I can turn my hot air off. Gotta put the battery back in still, so leave this hot iron on. But that paste flux I whipped out earlier, that is so much better flux than this no clean stuff. It's just, you have to actually clean up that flux, and it's very, very sticky. And you definitely shouldn't get it on your bare hands. I should be wearing gloves. It's obviously too late to fix that. I'm not having any luck getting the rest of this stuff out. So I think I'm just gonna not worry about it for the time being. But I might actually try a little bit of the fuck? Oh, I dropped my canned here. Might try a little bit of distilled white vinegar and a cotton swab. Finish cleaning that up. We can do better than that. The center the Jesus thing. Come on, give me a pretty joint. That's better. It ain't perfect, but something good enough for the girls I go out with. Yeah, that's actually a really good idea. Usually the best way to clean this shit is just hot water and soap and toothbrush. And by this shit, I mean the plastic shell. But this is good enough. Yes, I know I'm putting the screw in, but I am genuinely going to take this apart after the stream again. Try cleaning that up a little bit more. I just want to see... Oh! I was going to check and see if my save is still there. I forgot I just pulled the fucking battery out and put it back in. Let's test it one more time, make sure everything's still working. It is... 8S03. Actually, it's 804 now. One of the reasons I like the SP so much for actually playing games, I can play one-handed. And I'm doing that right now because my left hand is, or my right hand, I swear I know my left from my right. Still covered in flux. Saving, don't turn off the power. Cool. So that's that. I think we're good to go. I'm just going to boot it up again in a few minutes, check that it both retained my save and the time. But yeah, that went a little bit smoother than I had anticipated. And I blocked out an hour for this, and we're just about there. Alex, you're 100% right. I should be using this. There's no battery in it, though. That's entirely too high effort. Oh my god, there is a battery in it. There's just no backlight. I fucked it up when I pulled the screen out for something. And I haven't fixed it yet. yeah, I guess next time I do a stream I can work on fixing this game, because this has the exact same issue. But I think I know what the issue with this one already is. This one obviously isn't corrosion. You might be looking at the staining on this board and going, ew, dude, you got to clean up your flux. And, well, I did clean up the flux. I just ruined the finish on this board because this white solder mask is not, it does not take the heat very well. But anyway, it did work at some point. It will probably still work if I unplug it and plug it back in enough. Yeah, there it goes. But I can't reflash the thing. I don't know, it won't let me reflash it. I was obviously able to flash it the one time, but it's not working, and I don't know why. And this is on an old version of Crystal Clear, so I'm not having very much fun with that. But yeah, we'll save that for the next video. I've got some new PCBs to check out too. So let's check this thing out. Double check that it's still working. Not that I expected it to stop working. No. Continue. 806. We're good. So there we go. I've got a little bit more cleanup to do on the card itself. I want to go over it one more time with some isopropyl alcohol, and then I want to actually clean up the rest of the corrosion on the shell, but I'm going to do that later. I've got to go take care of some business, and I still have to clean up this mess because I'm basically working on this part of my desk with this all covered in flux, but otherwise, we're good to go. I think I'm done here. Did y'all have any... Is there anything y'all wanted to talk